This started.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right. Now, we've been talking a lot of Arizona basketball this week. We are now going to talk some Arizona football. And as we all know, Jedd Fisch has done a very good job here at the University of Arizona, a very good job of turning over the talent here. And there's nothing that is more indicative than that of the offense that he has going right now. Now, couple things to keep in mind. When he inherited the offense, you had Will Plummer and Gunnar Cruz. Those were your quarterbacks. And at wide receiver, you had Stan Berryhill and not a ton. Now you look at what Arizona has at quarterback. You got Jayden de Laura, probably one of the 5 best QBs in the conference. Then at the wide receiver position, you are stacked. You've got T-Mac, freshman All-American, going to be an NFL player. Then you got Jacob Cowing, one of the best players in all of college football, certainly one of the best wide receivers. Those two go hand in hand together, and they are both very nice complements to each other. Now, then you look at some of the other receivers there, and I've always felt that Arizona probably should have played some of their other receivers last year. I was a little disappointed in that because I think it did lead to some injuries. But at the end of the day, all's well that ends well. Kevin Green's played well. You got A.J. Jones, Malachi Riley, but you got another player coming into the mix now. You've got from Colorado. Now, where he becomes fascinating is you watch him what he can do, and he becomes a player immediately that you're like, okay, I can see what he can do. Montana Lamonious-Craig is a player that was a 4-star kid out of Inglewood High School, and again, he was at Colorado last year. He was probably their best wide receiver, caught for 400 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns. But you also need to remember that was with a terrible quarterback situation there, and something that wasn't at all sustainable, to put it mildly. Now, you bring him in, Montana Lamonious-Craig. You bring him in. You're going to probably start him next to Jacob Cowing and T-Mac, and that is one of the if it's not the best receiving core in the conference, it's certainly right there, as all of those guys are big-time contributors. All of them are NFL-type players at varying levels, and I don't think that Lamonious-Craig will be any exception there. Now, he's a little bit it's interesting because you look at Jacob Cowing. He's a guy that generally catches the ball and then runs. You look at T-Mac, he's the dude that goes up and gets it. Lamonious-Craig can do a little bit of everything. He can catch the ball deep. He can also catch it, and he can make people miss upfield. He's very good at that. But this also just goes to show you, too, that as long as Jedd Fisch is at the University of Arizona, he is never going to lack for talent at the skill positions. I think that we can safely assume that by now that Jedd Fisch will always have a loaded wide receiver unit. That is obviously a good thing. And, again, Dorian Singer's off to USC. But let's not act like, Dorian Singer wasn't a loss. Dorian Singer can play. So you bring in a player that has similar athletic attributes, and, just kind of interesting to see where it goes. Now, as far as the pass catchers go, what does this mean for Kevin Green Jr.? Like I said, I'm still a huge fan of Kevin Green. I thought he should have played last year, but Kevin Cummings is also an awesome wide receivers coach. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I know more than Kevin Cummings, because I don't. He sees him every day. But every time Kevin Green has had that opportunity, he's looked pretty good in the process. So I certainly am not writing him off at all. Keep in mind, he'll still be a freshman this year. He's got 4 years of eligibility left. And then You got some other players. You got an A.J. Jones, 6'5", 215 pounds, huge man, was committed to UCLA. He's had some really nice moments, and then he's had some moments where you could tell that he's a freshman. But as far as upside goes, his upside is right up there with pretty much anybody on the team. And then you also got another guy in Malachi Riley. Now, Malachi Riley was the epitome of a player that Jedd Fisch is able to get, in that he comes in and he's about he comes in and he's about 6'1", 6'2", something like that, and he's able to make some real plays out there. And so I watch it, and I think to myself that this is going to be a player that's going to be able to make some real contributions right there. Now, I think with some of the other players then at that tight end position, you got some other dudes. You got a Kean Burnett. You also got a Tanner McLaughlin. Both these guys are pass catchers. They can both do a little bit of everything. And Tanner McLaughlin can catch the ball. And not only can he catch the ball, he's shown that he can be a little bit of a threat downfield, as can Kean Burnett. Dude. What's up? I'm on a Zoom right now. What's up?
I'm here to change out the electric meter.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
But the power will go off in about 20 seconds.
You have to do it right now?
I can make an appointment for like.
Yeah, let's make an appointment.
I'll give you this real quick. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
All right, thank you.
I apologize about that. That was bizarre. But when it comes to Kean Burnett can catch passes. And not only can he catch passes, Tanner McLaughlin can also do the same thing. They're both physically pretty impressive players right there. Now, one thing that I think one thing that I do like about this squad, though, is their ability to be able to, to be able to adapt. And what I mean by that is you got a lot of different players at a lot of different positions that can do some different things. You've got, like I said, you got Rayshon Speedy Luke. Love Speedy Luke. Fam, as we call him on this show, can catch, can get after the, can catch, can make people miss, can do a lot of different things out there. I'd like to see him get the ball a little bit more, to be honest with you. Not only do I like to see him get the ball a little bit more, I'd like to see him get it in a variety of different ways. Catching the ball, making people miss upfield, just a variety of different ways right there. And that's what he's able to do. Again, and I don't really buy the whole argument, well, he's a little bit smaller right there. A little bit smaller, so, we shouldn't have him return kicks. I don't buy that. You look at some of the best returners of all time, they're smaller dudes. I mean, the guy that I'll always compare him to is DeAnthony Thomas, who at Oregon, and DeAnthony Thomas was of similar physical dimensions. You could make the case that DeAnthony Thomas was even smaller. And guess what they had him do? They had him return kicks. They had him get the ball in space. They had him do a ton of different things right there. And that's what I think is impressive about what they're able to do. Now, as far as, I'll tell you what, let's talk about Birddogs first. Birddogs. All right, birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. Check it out. All right, now, I'm not even a big fan of wearing shorts, but you know what I am a big fan of? Looking cool, feeling comfortable. Birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege helps you do all of that. And not only helps you do all that, it helps you feel good in the process. Check it out, birddogs.com. Again, everybody's wearing them, and it's because it looks good. Everybody wants to be able to wear Birddogs. And again, comfortable, stylish, you name it. Again, Birddogs looks great. So again, check it out. Birddogs, good stuff. And again, I think the one thing about Birddogs too is that you feel comfortable. So if you look good, you feel comfortable, why wouldn't you do it? Birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. All right, we're going to be right back with you, and we're going to talk about this addition to the receiving core, what it means for the offense, and what we should expect. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats, making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, what should you expect then from this University of Arizona Wildcats football team? I think it's going to be one of the top 10 to 15 offenses in the country. It should be, at least on paper, because keep in mind, remember, you're in the Pac-12, not exactly known for great defense, And not only are you in the Pac-12, but you've got players at every position that people shouldn't be able to guard and people shouldn't be able to defend. Now, who are some of those players? I mean, we just went over some of them right now. I think the one thing about this squad though is, let's be honest here. When you've got that type of talent, when you got that type of skill, how are you going to spread it all out? Again, I believe you got to play multiple guys. Again, coaches know a lot more than me, but I don't feel great playing a little dude like Jacob Cowing as much as he played. Now, again, I know that he's got to play, but again, he's not the biggest guy in the world. He's probably about 5'8", and he's probably about $190. So again, want him to play a ton, but more like 80% of the snaps, not 95 or 98, whatever that case may be. So that's what I want to see. That's what I'd like to see there. You've got depth now, utilize it. And when you can utilize it, when you got that depth, utilize it. And because again, I mean, it's kind of like that old USC thing where we got, our backups are as good as our starters almost. So, when you got to tap out for a minute, there's no shame in that. Go ahead and do that, and we'll get somebody else in there, and we'll get you right back out onto the field. Arizona's at that point now. And again, that's a testament to Fisch because a lot of, that just is what it is. That's a testament to Jedd Fisch because this talent was not at that level when he took over. And not only was it not at that level, it was not to the it wasn't even close to being mediocre Power 5. Now he's got one of the best skill position teams in the country. And on top of that, you got running backs out of the backfield that can also catch the ball. Michael Wiley could have maybe gone to the NFL. I think that he's going to have a chance to play in the NFL. And if he doesn't have a chance to play in the NFL, he's going to make a lot of money doing something else, playing football, because he's really good. But again, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. All of this makes Jayden de Laura's job much, much easier. And by making it much easier, again, it's not saying that Jayden de Laura can't play. Jayden de Laura can obviously play, but sometimes it just helps to be able to get guys their reps a little bit earlier. And when you got those running backs back there, when you got Michael Wiley, when you got Jonah Coleman, when you got DJ Williams, you got Brandon Johnson, these are guys that can also break it deep. And not only can they break it deep, they can get when they get loose, they can make it up, or they can make it upfield. They can make guys miss, or they can get behind it. That's how impressive they are. And again, that's a testament to what Jedd Fisch has been building right here. So again, kudos to Jedd Fisch right there. Now the offensive line that's got to keep them upright. You got two guys that are probably all-American first-round pick types. And by that, I mean, you've got basically Jordan Morgan, who probably could have been a first-round pick this last year. You look at all the different metrics. He was the number one rated guy coming back this year, and he was the number one rated guy coming back for a reason, because he's good, he can move, he's strong, he's physical, he's got all those attributes that you are looking for. And then Jonah Savaiinaea, in my opinion, we've talked about Big Jonah a ton. Jonah is the best prospect on this team for the NFL. I think that he's a player that when he is eligible, he's going to be able to hop in there and be a long-term NFL player. And not only a long-term NFL guy, a difference maker, an all-pro type guy. And that's where I think that Arizona is at right now on that line. Now, again, you got to find some other players that are going to make it a little bit easier for you right there. Obviously, Wendell Moe at that other guard spot was a big pickup last year. He showed that he could play, and I don't see Wendell Moe ever coming out of that lineup, to be honest with you. As a matter of fact, I think that he's probably going to be an all-conference guy sooner than later. So you got three positions right there. You got left tackle with Jordan Morgan already all sewn up. Then you've got Wendell Moe at one of the guards. Then you got Jonah Savaiinaea, who they moved out to right tackle, which shows you just how impressive an athlete Jonah Savaiinaea is, because they felt comfortable with him doing that. And again, you don't do that if you don't feel comfortable about what a player can do. And you don't do that if you don't feel comfortable about that you got a guard on the roster that can maybe make things easier. Now, we've heard this all the time, that generally having a guard makes things a little bit easier. and then finding somebody at tackle. And I think that's the case for Arizona, is you're going to slide somebody in there. Then at that center position, you got Josh Baker. I'm cool with Josh Baker. I think Josh Baker's a solid player. Not great, but he's definitely solid. And but so again, you got that, and you got to find out who that other interior player is going to be. I don't know who that interior player is going to be, but obviously, if you're moving a guy with All-American potential in Jonas Savaiinaea to the outside, you got a lot of faith that there is somebody like that on this roster. Now, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about what statistically what these expectations should be for the Wildcats. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, statistical expectations. Again, I expect Arizona to be a top 15 offense in the country for a variety of reasons. First, they've got the skill position players to be able to make this one work. And when I say make it work, these guys are good. They have good players there, and we've been over them. You got NFL players at the receiver position. You got borderline NFL players at running back. Delores not an NFL quarterback, but he's also a good enough college player that he can make that. Then you got NFL tight ends as well. So again, with there's a lot to actually like here. Now I'm also interested to see where exactly Arizona is, though, when it comes to some of the backup spots, especially at that QB position. Now, JDL, the one thing we know about him, he's good. I don't think anybody's doubting that Jaden Delore is a good quarterback, but he's also been a little bit inconsistent, a little bit of questions when it comes to that. Can he get over that hump? Can he bring that consistency level up a notch? If he can bring that consistency level up a notch, then I think Arizona is in really good shape. I think some of these other players, then Noah Fifita. What exactly does Noah Fifita bring to this team? Noah Fifita brings a player who I think is a little bit smaller, obviously, but I love Noah Fifita. I think when Noah Fifita hits the field, I think that he's probably not coming out. And not only is he not coming out, he's probably going to be a player that all kinds of players look at and say, yeah, I want to be like him, because, again, I know he's smaller, but, man, he can wing it all over the field. He can move. I'm excited to see what he can do when he does get out there, because I think he's got that type of ability. And then you got Braden Dorman back there, all 6'4", big drink of water, Braden Dorman. He's also really, really good. And he's the player, too, that, the way that he can wing it around, wing it around, he's got the ability to be able to, I think, make a really, really big impression out there whenever he does hit the field. So again, that's kind of where we're at right now. I do have a couple questions, though, about the defense, which we're obviously going to talk about the next show. Defensively, though, there's going to be a lot of questions, but special teams wise, I do have a lot of comfort in what Arizona has out there from a kicking position. And not only that, not only do I have a lot of confidence at that kicking spot right there, I have a lot of confidence that this Arizona team is going to, when they get in there, they are going to be able to, I think they're going to be able to score points. And not only do I think they're going to be able to score points, I think they're going to, at the very least, be able to kick field goals. But I think what's exciting about that, if you're a Wildcat fan, is that how many times have we watched Arizona over the years and they have not been able to kick field goals? They've not been able to make the kind of field goals that you need in big moments. Arizona has been able to do that. And not only has Arizona been able to do that, Arizona, quite frankly, they haven't even looked close to being able to do that. And I think that's, if you're an Arizona fan, you're excited about that entire possibility right there. So we'll find out what that is. Now, a little bit of a shorter pod today. Again, I'm having some technical issues here. I had people knocking on my door when I didn't expect it. So again, We'll be talking all about the defense next show. But again, I believe Arizona's a bowl team. I feel very, very comfortable in saying that. And I believe it's going to have a top 15 to 20 offense in the country because of all the skill position players that Arizona does have at its disposal. All right. On that note, we're going to sign off right now, but we will be back with you tomorrow. As always, back the A. Thanks for listening to Locked On Wildcats.